All right, we got to take a look at some of this PawSox data tonight.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
Glad to have you aboard. We got to move quickly this evening on this Wednesday. We have key players in a press conference from the Build RI organization a couple of days ago, trying to put a different and I think more accurate take on what the pulse of the Rhode Island public is when it comes to the stadium issue for the PawSox. We'll get to that momentarily. In the meantime, they went back to school at Parkland today. God bless those kids, although they're not really taking classes for the next couple of days, maybe a week or so, while they kind of warm up to being back in the same place. I watched a teacher interview today where the guy hasn't slept for 2 weeks. I mean, I just can't imagine what that place is going to be like and how the recovery period is going to go on. But of course, it doesn't stop the politics for and everybody running to their polar opposite sides. I'll have to get Joe Fleming to pull this one too. I just don't know how you ask the responsible questions. Gun rally at the State House yesterday. Enough is enough. Kids, emotional, demanding things that they really don't understand specifically. Although young people are going to move the conversation in some direction. There's no doubt about that. The governor has more than harnessed this.
They're called military-style weapons because they belong in the military.
I myself would have to be convinced that that's going to actually help people.
All right. Well, this is the discussion yesterday about making assault weapons illegal, but actually it was a semi-automatic discussion as well, and nobody knows the definitions, and everybody's all over the place. And frankly, the governor doesn't know what she's talking about when it comes to guns. Just doesn't. Not paying attention to the details. And I'm not a big, Second Amendment NRA guy by any stretch of the imagination, but I want to see some discussion of a school security policy. That's the thing you rush to. And in terms of an executive order, like I said yesterday, on this red flag, the police chiefs have done a good thing by bringing this idea up, and legislation on red flag ought to be addressed and passed. She should be pushing legislation, not executive orders, which mean nothing. Absolutely nothing. In the meantime, Dick's is going to stop selling certain weapons. Don't tell me they didn't look at their pro forma before they did that. Just saying. All right, let's move to the PawSox thing. Headline from the other day, poll shows voter support new stadium if it pays for itself. Here's the story behind it.
The debate has raged for years. Should taxpayers help the PawSox stay in Pawtucket? Monday morning, results of a new poll commissioned by supporters of the plan, Build RI, showed Rhode Islanders support building a new stadium with some taxpayer dollars, but only if the stadium will pay for itself over time.
Let's get to where we need to get and keep the Pawtucket Red Sox in Pawtucket where they belong.
A bill to build an $83 million ballpark on the old Apex site would have the team pay $45 million, while the state pays $23 million and the city $15 million. Being told the park would pay for itself, 56% of voters supported the bill, 40% opposed, and 4% were unsure.
It's a bogus and slanted question. You can't ask it that way.
RI GOP Chairman Brandon Bell says the assumption the park would pay for itself, though, is wrong.
Everybody wants a PawSox to stay, but we can't go into the if you build it, they will come. It's just not. It's not the way it's been. Look at McCoy, 75 years later. If you build it, they will come. They didn't come.
Build RI Vice Chairman Michael Sabatoni disagrees, saying the House needs to act before the team leaves for Worcester.
Because it'd be a real shame years from now to continue to drive by that Apex site and think about what could have been. So with some vision and courage, we can change that dynamic around.
Greg Mancini is the chairman?
No, executive director.
So sorry if we put chairman up there.
That's okay.
Executive director, meaning you're the full-time guy.
Yeah.
For the Build RI
Correct.
organization. And Joe Fleming is no stranger, official pollster for WPRI, works for a lot of politicians, and I think his work speaks for itself, no doubt. You were hired by Build RI
Yes.
independently.
Yes.
I think you guys did a really interesting thing here, and I think it added credibility, and that was that you didn't, while you may have set up information, foundational information for response, you asked a really important question that reflected the I don't know, single concept approach, which is, does anybody want taxpayer money in this thing? And that ends up being question, I'm not sure which question that is.
7, I think it is.
Question 7. Do we have question 7 there, guys? If you can put up question 7. Do we have that? Just put it up there for me. All right. Well, I can't read that either. Of course, you have to have a big screen for that. But basically, that's not the question I'm looking for. That's the question I'm looking for. And I apologize, folks, because I think we have our questions screwed up. Let me just see. Do you want taxpayer money in the stadium deal? Only 40% support.
Correct.
I don't know what question we have where. Maybe you're thinking mine is different.
That was the correct one.
Okay. Well, anyway, that at least offered a commensurate common pulse with what the political chatter has been.
Yeah. So let me just comment on that. We went to Joe because we thought he was objective. We thought he was credible. We wanted a credible poll. We did not involve the PawSox or any state official because number one, we want the project certainly, but number two, we believe Rhode Islanders want the project, and so we wanted to get an objective, credible poll that would give the pulse of what Rhode Islanders are at. And by the way, we took great risk with that. If the Rhode Islanders didn't want the poll, if we didn't get a good result, you know, it would have been.
What were you going to do if you didn't get a good result?
I don't know what we would have done, to be honest with you. We were pretty confident we would get a good result, you know, but I don't know what we would have done, to be honest with you.
Well, it's always been my instinct, maybe it was yours, Greg, and you and I have talked about this a number of times. The way you frame the question.
Absolutely correct.
And of course, that's the truth. Listen, this push polling in politics, hey, this guy's a great guy who's a Boy Scout leader, da-da-da. He may have committed 6 crimes, but if you only inform on this, you're going to get, well, I must like him then. But the truth is that we are already in a public-private partnership. And when you ask that question, do you want to continue, there's kind of a shoulder shrug. The electorate says 60% yes.
Yes.
Right?
That's correct.
When you ask them about the actual structure of the deal, it's not 60, it's like 56%.
Correct.
With the $45 million put by the PawSox, 23 from the state, and 15 million from the city of Pawtucket. They seem to, when you say taxpayer money, period, they go, nah.
Right.
But when you say, oh, okay, they go, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Is that the proper translation?
Correct, yeah. I think that's what we try to do in the poll. We wanted to ask the question, which people are saying, well, they don't want taxpayer support. So we asked a question saying a little bit less than half the money will come from taxpayers, and the taxpayers will have to pay for it. Only 40% supported it that way. But when we came back and we explained it on how the money's going to be raised to pay for that $23 million from the state and $15 million from the city, now a majority support it.
I think the most important question is the one that had a 76% response.
That's what I was just going to say.
Which is that people want, do we have these guys in the right order? We'll check during the break, and maybe we'll put them up for you so you can read them. They're available on foxprovidence.com, on buildri.com, on
.org.
Do you have a .com?
No.
.org?
Yes.
BuildRI.org?
Yes.
Do you have a .com?
No, I don't.
You don't have a .com?
No, I don't.
Come on, man.
No.
You don't have a .com. But in general, the question, do you want the state, the city, and the team to work toward a solution here? It's a 76, there it is, 76%.
Yeah.
Which reflects a confused but still emotionally tied to the PawSox electorate.
See, I would disagree with that. I think that the electorate is not confused. I think they want the legislature to do their job, figure out, and the executive office do their job, figure out a deal that works for everybody. I think you alluded to the other day that they expect some sort of taxpayer contribution. I mean, it happens, quite frankly, you know, we're always soliciting out-of-state businesses on a regular basis as some sort of, so I think it's kind of somewhat common to give some sort of taxpayer contribution.
Greg, I don't think that's true. I don't think they expect it. I think when asked generally about it, they push back on it. When they're told we're already in it, they say, oh, okay, that's okay. There's a difference.
Yeah,
they don't expect the taxpayer investment in this project, nor do they want it. There's a 38 studio malaise, there's an anti-government malaise, there's a distrust malaise out there. But it softens when they're informed that we're already in the condition.
But I guess my point is that 76% of the population want government officials to figure it out. They want the PawSox to be
No doubt.
So, and I think the state has put together a deal that figures it out in the sense that it doesn't cost them anything. I mean, according to the Senate report, this project, and according to Commerce Corporation, this project pays for itself. So I think that, you know, actually the 56% number I think is a little low because I think 76%.
Well, there's a guy that's hung up on the idea that it doesn't, so we'll talk about that when we come back. Stay with us. the Senate bill is dead in the House, as written.
The Senate bill is dead in the state of Rhode Island. 2/3 of the Rhode Islanders do not support it, and therefore the House will not support it.
So he's heck-bent, the Speaker of the House, on, I thought, a specious representation, literally, on Go Local Prov, and a malformed question. You're not going to react to it. I already asked you on the radio side. You have a point of view on the poll that he's leaning on?
Yeah, I looked at the question. I would vote no on that poll, too, because it implies that the state's going to pay for the entire thing, and talks about the state issuing and inferring the state's going to pay for
moral obligation bonds.
But the state's going to issue. Yeah, but there's no reference to the fact that the PawSox can actually make a $12 million equity contribution. There's no reference to the fact that the PawSox is going to pay for more than half, and the project's going to pay for itself.
So we're still getting a lot of pushback on the numbers themselves. And you're not here to represent the numbers. You're an advocacy group here, and you guys have a self-interest, which I don't think is dirty. It's legitimate. It's a, you know, we want jobs. We want work. I get that. But this notion that it's only cash flowing $1.6 million into the state coffers right now, and the projection is $3 million, and they'd have to improve attendance by 40% in order to be able to get that. The number is closer to $2 million, and I don't know who of you two could expect to comment on this, but all new stadiums generate new energy and new projections. I don't know why the Speaker of the House, I just don't think he's genuinely bothered by the idea that there could be anywhere from $1.5 million to a zero and/or positive cash flow differential in these projections. All projections are fluid in this situation.
I agree with that, but this is what I go back to, just so you know, is that the PawSox payroll contributes about, according to the Senate report, contributes $1.7 million a year in state income tax to the state of Rhode Island. Last couple of years has been more than $2 million. The state's obligation is going to be $1.4 million a year, and there's also
to its own bond.
To its own bond.
To its own bond.
That's
to the $23 million.
That's correct.
And then the city of Pawtucket's got its own contribution, just less than $1 million on its $15 million portion. And the truth is that the state has to commit to underwriting all three instruments under the bonding by its legal obligation.
I would agree with that.
Here.
I would agree with that.
And that's where everyone's getting into the argument.
That's
I don't know if you have a reflection on that. And you can't reflect all those details in a poll.
No. We try to make it simple that the voters can understand what we're talking about in a short question. If we explain all that, Dan, the question will go on for about 2 minutes, and we could lose the voters within those 2 minutes.
Well, I don't know if anybody's ever closed a major deal to buy a business. I know I have. And there's a reason why you have lawyers and everything, because there's a part where you go, okay, how much am I spending? Right, and what's my payment? Okay, and then all the papers which pile here, you go, all right, whatever else is in there. And I'm not saying, listen, I've been a watchdog all my career. I'm not saying the details don't matter, but it really is legalese more than it is, there's a ripoff going on here. But somehow the public is still poisoned. You can poison the public with as your poll is skewed or your poll doesn't reflect the truth.
Well, I think that's why it's important we ask the question both ways, where when we first ask it without all the facts, people are against it just using taxpayers' money. When they find out the taxpayers' money is revenue generated for the team, which makes it revenue neutral or a plus for the state, they now support it. So, I mean, I think that we explained it both ways. I mean, people want, the first question we asked was, should the PawSox remain in Rhode Island? People overwhelmingly say yes.
I don't know that the speaker has been moved. I was standing at your press conference thinking, boy, I appreciate what these guys are doing. This is really kind of an effort to move the speaker. The speaker says he needs more time to adjust the numbers, but then spits out that the numbers aren't real. I mean, so it didn't take him very long to form an opinion and to postpone a meeting with the PawSox based on it.
Yeah, I think that the legislative process is slow and arduous. I can tell you that the people who support the PawSox, the building trades, I think just people in general support the PawSox. I think they really feel energized by this poll. And I'm sure it'll go through the committee process, and we'll see how it. I think that the logic will dictate this is a good deal.
Greg, it only gets to the committee process if there's a piece of legislation posted, and the speaker controls that whole thing.
I think that'll happen. I would think that'll happen. They're good. The
by
House,
when? How? Who? When? Who?
Well, I know the House has introduced a bill. They should get a hearing. By rule, they can get a hearing. I would think they'll get a hearing. Yeah, it's not going to be an easy process, Dan. But I do think there is momentum on our side, and I do think people
Clock's ticking.
Hey, the clock is absolutely ticking.
Go pull up in Worcester. I bet you get a lot better numbers.
We might.
You know, those people have a fresh appetite for a project that looks like redevelopment. And the people do your kind of work up there are salivating over it.
Well, I don't know if you heard our chairman. Our chairman said to us, I'm going to bid on this project whether it's built in Rhode Island or whether it's built in Worcester, you know, regardless. And he goes, I think the right thing to do is to put it into Pawtucket. If it's not, you know, I'll bid it in Worcester. Now, our chairman is he's in New England. He's out of Providence, but he doesn't work all in New England.
All right, let me review those questions for you one more time because now that we've got our act together, and it was on me, by the way. Question 5. Why don't we just put them up in order? Question 5. Do you want these guys to get together? Yes, 76%. Question 6. Hey, do you know that we're in a public-private partnership? Do you want to keep that going? Oh, okay. 61%. Yes. Hey, guess what? You need to know what the numbers are. Da-da-da-da-da-da. But, you know, in general, this is, the way you put this in the middle of it, Joe, was kind of interesting, because that's where it all dropped down to 40%. This question asked about straight taxpayer support without any background.
Correct.
And only 40% support. But then when you go to question 8, hey, by the way, here's the breakout. 45 for the PawSox, 23 for the state, da-da-da. And by the way, the pro forma shows it supports, it goes back up to 56%.
Correct.
And they say, oh, but a year ago it was 65%. Yeah, but you didn't ask the same question.
No, we didn't ask the same question. And the thing is, Dan, as I was
I was
mentioning
busting
about
your chops about the way you asked the question last year.
I think you were, matter
Yes.
of fact. But the thing is, a poll is nothing more than a snapshot at that time. People's opinions change too. But again, with this, it's all how you ask the question. Questions 7 and 8. Two different results.
We shall stay tuned on this. Appreciate your participation. A local state rep on this and another project he's working on. When we come back, stay with us. Yeah, so there's your stadium. Carlos Tobon is the rep from one of the reps from Pawtucket. You were at this Build Our Right press conference the other day. What's your quick take on this? Because we have a couple other things we want to chat about.
Just simply, you know, the building trades see the opportunity to make a difference and add jobs, but more importantly, they want to. They're supporting the efforts of the Pawtucket delegation and the people in Rhode Island who believe in this, and to make sure we keep the PawSox here in Rhode Island. But we need to distinguish: the PawSox are the lead tenant in a stadium that is a Rhode Island stadium, and it happens to be in Pawtucket.
What's the pulse of the constituents in the city?
Well, in Pawtucket, I think that yesterday, the Senate, Special Senate...
Cano, right?
Yeah, Sandra Cano winning. And you have Norton, who is anti.
She beat him 4-1.
And she won 869 votes to 202. I think that's a clear demonstration of the people of Pawtucket.
Is it just about the PawSox as a referendum, or did she just have some political equity there and was well known and well organized?
I would attribute her win to all of the above, but more importantly, the PawSox situation came out up front with Mr. Norton being in the race, and she demonstrated that that's not something that the people in Pawtucket that matter to them.
What's your read on the speaker?
I'd say Nicholas Mattiello, Speaker, has always been very fair to us. He's always looked out for the people of Rhode Island, and I think he's trying to do that one more time. It's a little tough for us, being the delegation from Pawtucket, who have constantly said, we want this, we need this is important for the livelihood of a city, or else if the people of Rhode Island who don't understand this, you're going to pay for this in the back end if Pawtucket happens to sink. So I really, truly believe that Speaker Mattiello is looking for the best deal. He's done it in the past. He did it with Roadworks, and I'm confident that
What do you think has to be changed? What do you think the Speaker wants?
So I've said to the Speaker, and I've said to everybody, when people go out and they phrase a question negatively, you're going to get a negative response. So because this poll, I feel, was neutral, the people of Rhode Island will see that, and Speaker Mattiello...
He's not moved by the poll.
He's not moved by the poll.
What do you think he wants?
He wants to make sure that the people of Rhode Island are not on the hook at the end of the day. And I think that we are getting there. We are constant communication. The Pawtucket delegation...
Does that mean the PawSox back up the city of Pawtucket's bonding? Is that what they do? Is that the mechanism?
That's
I mean, my God. I mean, how easy is this? You bring 5 guys into the room, the key players. You throw down a case of beer and a couple of pizzas. You lock the door. And you go, "What do you want?"
That's what J.P. Morgan did.
What do you want? Yeah. Well, and if it's, look, you want another $5 million from the PawSox over 6 years? Is that what you want? Larry, can you do that? We can do 4. He can do 4. How does that mitigate the liability for the PawSox? For the city of Pawtucket. Blah, 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 blah. What's the development plan? Back it up 2 years to be safe. Change the interest rate. What about get the financing? I mean, how hard is this?
It's about getting in the room, and that hasn't happened.
Yeah, and the truth is that other politics are preventing this meeting that I could run in a half an hour and get this thing done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad. So I appreciate your diplomacy for the boss, because that's the way politics works. What are you working on with this this other project that's going on here? You've got and we'll bring it back when we have more time to talk about it. The Black and Latino Caucus is doing what?
So Black Latino Caucus, we've been around for 9 years. My colleague Shelby Maldonado and I are co-chairs, and we want to celebrate it one more time. The important thing with the Black Latino Caucus is to make sure that the issues that matter within the areas that we represent are heard. And in regards to Black History Month, we want to celebrate the importance of that, because it's a reminder of, you know, where we were, where we are, and where we want to be. And this year we had the pleasure of bringing Brent Leggs, who he has a long title, but he is the...
You're cheating.
Assistant Clinical Professor of Historic Preservation. And,
I would need it too.
And he's the director of the American Cultural Heritage Action Fund at the National Trust of Historic Preservation.
So, and what's the relevance of all of that?
So what is it? We brought him because he spoke to why this organization came to be, a $25 million fund to preserve and restore, and more importantly, let the future generations know of, you know, the Confederate heritage of where it all began, and then where make sure that's never lost in regards to why it happened.
We're losing our history.
Yeah.
We're losing our history. We're losing connection. Even inside the minority communities. There are kids today who don't know Martin Luther King Jr. There's a whole bunch of that going on right now. It's not just white America. It's across the board.
So with that, the most important thing is we don't know where we're going unless we know where we came from. And it's important that we make sure that stays relevant. That conversation has to stay relevant, because future generations have to appreciate, whether it be the struggle or the sacrifice of the past, to know that this didn't just happen. You know, cell phones weren't just there. And I think that technology has been a blessing and a curse, because now we just Google everything, or we just go based on a headline and get social media takes over, and people don't look at the real story. So Mr. Leggs is part of this organization that's really trying to preserve that, and we're so fortunate to bring him here and have that connection now.
And when's that happening?
Well, this occurred.
Oh, already did?
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. Well, we should learn more about it.
We have a video. He did a beautiful job, and like I said, we're committed.
Maybe we can link in on that. Can we do that? We'll link all that on foxprovidence.com. Sorry to be short, but this PawSox thing is in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
Are we going to get a deal, yes or no?
Yes, we are going to get a deal.
Really?
And I want to just say...
You're bringing it on my table? I thought only I could bring it on my table.
I just want to say that the most important thing is that, you know, a year ago, Jimmy Kimmel goes to the street and he says, "What do you think about Obamacare?" And everyone's like, "It's horrible, let it go." And then he says, "What do you think about the ACA?" They're like, "It's great, let's keep it."
Yeah,
and that's been the question. I think that's what we've been up against.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Right. I get it. Good point. Final word when we come back. Black History Month ends today. As my guest told me during the break, we don't focus on the importance of what it tells us around the calendar year. It's kind of like Christmas. It ought to be every day, right? All right, I'll see you tomorrow, and on the radio at 3 on WPRL. Good night.